I forgot to start the recording. Once again, I don't know what it is about this class. I always forget that. Okay, so we're going to re-identify Mr. Swanson for the plaintiff.
I am the witness.
The court.
I'm attorney for defense, Mr. Wesley.
And we're starting with a question by Mr. Swanson, reading in 14s on the record. Mr. Popejoy, you formerly operated Scoop's Creamery and Grill located at 7910 Antelope Road, Citrus Heights, California.
Yes.
I'd like to take a look at what's been marked as Exhibit B in these proceedings. Do you recognize that document, sir?
Yes, I do.
And is that your signature that appears on the various signature pages of that document?
It's my initial that appears on all the pages except the last page, and that is my signature on addendum 1. And the last page, it says addendum number 1.
Very good. Could you also look now at Exhibit C, please, Mr. Popejoy?
Which letter?
C, as in cat. Is that your signature that appears on that letter?
Yes, it is.
Now, Exhibit B is a copy of the lease which you executed with Mary S. Sales Corm on January 25th, 2005.
Yes.
And similarly, Exhibit C is a commencement letter which you signed, which indicates the date of commencement of the term of the lease was January 18, 2006.
Yes, it is.
Mr. Popejoy, could you also please take a look at what's been marked as Exhibit E? Do you recognize that document, sir?
Yes, I do.
Is that a letter which you received on or about late November of 2006? I'm sorry, late December 2006.
Yes, it is.
Mr. Popejoy, could you also please take a look at what's been marked as Exhibit G?
Hold on, what letter?
G as in George. Mr. Popejoy, is that your signature that appears on page 6 of addendum number 1?
Yes, it is.
And do you recognize there also the signature of James E. Popejoy and Charlene O. Popejoy?
Yes, I do.
You are familiar with their signatures?
Yes, I am.
And likewise, as to addendum number 2, is that your signature that appears on the signature page of that document?
Yes, it is.
Okay, is that also the signature of James B. Popejoy and Charlene O. Popejoy there?
That is correct.
Very good. Now turning to what's marked as Exhibit H, do you recognize that document, Mr. Popejoy?
Yes, I do.
Is that your signature that appears on page 1?
Yes, it is.
And similarly, is that also your signature that appears on the bottom of page 3?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Popejoy, isn't it the case that what we have marked as Exhibit G as a copy of the agreement for the written agreement for the purchase and sale of the business known as Scoop's Creamery and Grill, which you executed in about January of 2007?
According to what I have in my hand, it's the original copy.
I'm sorry, is it the original agreement which was executed for the purchase and sale of the business?
Yes, it is. Are you aware of any terms of the agreement for the sale of the business, Mr. Popejoy, which are not set forth in writing in this document?
No.
And similarly, are you aware of the terms of the assignment, acceptance of assignment, consent to assignment, and modifications to lease, which are not set forth in Exhibit H?
No.
Mr. Popejoy, at some point in time, were you diagnosed as suffering from multiple sclerosis?
Yes.
To the best of your recollection, when was it you were first diagnosed?
Approximately November 17th, 2006.
And what were your symptoms at that time, Mr. Popejoy?
Severe nausea, vertigo, weakness of the limbs.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevancy.
To relevancy, does anyone quarrel with the fact he has MS?
No. Now, Mr. Popejoy, I'd like you to look at Exhibit V. Do you recognize that document, Mr. Popejoy?
Which number are we?
V is in Victor.
I recognize it only as the document that was supposed to be given to my wife and my father, but I have no personal recollection of having received it. I may have looked at it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Popejoy, during the time that you operated Scoop's Creamery and Grill, well, strike that. What was the period of time during which you operated Scoop's Creamery and Grill?
What was the period of time that we operated Scoop's Creamery and Grill?
From when to when?
We operated from approximately January of 06 to, I got sick approximately November or December of 06.
Was the business profitable during the time that you operated it, Mr. Popejoy?
Not as profitable as we would like, but talking with other restaurant owners as well as my father who had operated restaurants, at the time it wasn't expected to be a tremendous smash the first year. We thought we were doing quite well for the 1 year we had been in business, although we were averaging, I believe, break even was about $33,000 a month, and we were doing someplace averaging a month around $30,000 to $31,000. Seems to me that we were approximately $2,000 per month in the red. Some months high, some months lower, but averaging it out. But I don't remember. We thought it was a reasonable success.
What was your wife's occupation during the time that you were operating the Scoops restaurant?
She was the secretary, bookkeeper, the one who paid the bills for me.
For the creamery?
For the creamery, yes.
Dr. Popejoy, when you developed multiple sclerosis, I take it you were unable to continue to operate Scoops Creamery and Grill.
That's correct.
And what strategy did you and your wife develop to deal with that situation when you had come down with the multiple sclerosis?
I was told by my neurologist it was best.
Your Honor, this seems to be hearsay.
Well, it's responsive to what strategy he developed, but don't tell us what he told you. But as a result of what he told you, what did you do?
To either sell the business to someone that was interested, continue operating the business as best we could, or possibly file bankruptcy because I wasn't unable to operate the business and I was the primary person and the only other person in our family that could even come close to doing what I was doing was my father, and he was not of the health or of the mind to really be able to do what I was doing.
Dr. Popejoy, do you know during the time that you operated the business, how many offers were made to purchase the business?
Well, we had 3 to 4 interested people, but only one that actually ended up in my CPA's office in Rancho Cordova, Carol Atwood, and that was brought to us by UBI, United Business Brokers, or something to that effect. We went to her office. They offered us, I believe, someplace around $250,000 for the.
Your Honor, I would simply object to the narrative answer. I think he's answered a question, and now maybe another question could be asked.
Well,
All right.
can you tell me the purchase price offered to you by the specific buyer who you met in Carol Atwood's office, Mr. Popejoy?
Yes, it was somewhere around $250,000. However, they wanted us to carry all but about $75,000 or $80,000 in cash. And I told them that was unacceptable because I didn't know what their experience with restaurants could have been, and that restaurants were not just for going in business and out, and I wasn't going to carry paper of that amount. I needed at least $150,000 cash, and we dickered for a couple of hours, and finally everybody left and they said they'd get back to me, and I don't remember whether they did or not.
When was it that you had that particular meeting with that particular buyer in Carol Atwood's office?
That was about July of 2006.
That was prior to the time you had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're going to move on now and start with these takes because I think they each have a little bit of warm-up. Yep. And yes. Okay, so we're going to do the CSR one first because I can put that on this regular recording so others can have access to it. Maybe you might even want to listen to it again over break and transcribe it, and then you could correct it. This is then going to be the CSR from July of 2016, court, witness, defense. We're going to start with the 5 minutes of warm-up. And let's read it in 14ths. I am Mr. Penn for the plaintiff.
I'm the witness.
I am the court.
I am attorney for defense, Mr. Swan.
Okay, and I may have said 5 minutes warm-up. It's only 3 minutes of warm-up. So we'll do this twice. The first time will be the faster of the two. Starting with a question by Mr. Penn on the record.
Mhm.
Pardon? Every other mark in 14. So now, as you are sitting here in court 4 years later, do you remember anyone actually getting a bloody nose?
No, sir.
And you don't remember Karen getting a bloody nose?
No.
Do you remember anyone ever getting hit in the head by a bottle?
No.
While they were in the living room right before this stabbing, are you 100% sure Susan had a bottle and was swinging it at Linda?
Objection relevant.
Overruled.
Thank you.
You can answer that if you have an answer.
Can you ask me the question again?
Are you certain that you saw Karen swinging a bottle?
Yes.
And did you ever tell police officers that?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
I will just move on, Your Honor.
Next question, please.
Now, after the stabbing started, did you see, sorry, I should clarify first, When you initially observed the stabbing, Susan was already on the ground and Linda was on top of her.
Yes,
Did you see what happened directly before that? Do you know how Susan got on the ground?
because they pushed each other. They were fighting. She was really trying to stab her. She fell over.
And so just prior to Linda stabbing her, you see Susan go from the living room area into the kitchen?
Yes, sir.
And did you see at this point Susan make any punching movements toward Linda?
No, sir, but Linda was attempting to stick up for herself.
Your Honor, I am going to ask the latter part of that be stricken. The answer is non-responsive.
Overruled. The answer remains.
So my question is just a yes or no at this point. I am asking if you saw Susan do any type of physical movements toward Linda when she was in the kitchen.
No,
And did you see any type of bottle in Susan's hands at this point as if she is going toward the kitchen where Linda is?
no,
Did you see Susan put the bottle down that you said she had in her hand earlier?
no, I didn't.
Do you know where the bottle went?
No,
You told detectives you were actually sitting on the couch during the entire time. Do you remember that?
yes,
And now your testimony is a little different here in court.
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled. You can answer that.
I told you I was sitting on the couch, but I got up when I was getting interviewed by the detectives. I didn't give any specific answers because they weren't asking good questions. I had been awake all night. I already told you everything. I did not want to be interviewed.
So when you were speaking with officers, did you still feel a little high from the methamphetamine you had smoked earlier?
Yeah, I was probably not in the right state of mind.
And do you remember telling officers that Linda and her friend actually cleaned up the mess and put the towels away that they had used to clean up the mess?
No,
Would it refresh your recollection to look at testimony of a transcript on that?
sure.
Counsel, is it testimony or just a prior statement?
Just a transcript, I apologize.
All right.
This is a prior statement.
This lawyer is going to ask you to read something. Please read it to yourself. When you are done, let us know, and perhaps he will ask you another question. Do you understand?
Okay,
Just take your time to read it through. You can just look up so we know you are finished reading. Okay?
I am finished now.
Okay, we're gonna go back and repeat that now at 200. That was 210. By the way, when you go to our media site and you go to the video section, these recordings where I have added the CSR exam to the practice portion, which are what are up on the links, they say CSR in the title. Okay, so you can tell that at some point on that recording, there's a CSR exam recorded. Okay, here we go. Same material, 3 minutes. So now as you are sitting here in court 4 years later, do you remember anyone actually getting a bloody nose?
No, sir.
And you don't remember Karen getting a bloody nose?
No,
Do you remember anyone ever hitting or getting hit in the head by a bottle?
no,
While they were in the living room right before this stabbing, are you 100% sure Susan had a bottle and was swinging it at Linda?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
Thank you.
You can answer that if you have an answer.
can you ask me the question again?
Are you certain that you saw Karen swinging a bottle?
Yes,
And did you ever tell police officers that?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
I will just move on, Your Honor.
Next question, please.
Now, after the stabbing started, did you see, sorry, I should clarify first. When you initially observed the stabbing, Susan was already on the ground and Linda was on top of her?
yes,
Did you see what happened directly before that? Do you know how Susan got on the ground?
because they pushed each other. They were fighting. She was really trying to stab her. She fell over.
And so just prior to Linda stabbing her, you see Susan go from the living room area over into the kitchen?
Yes, sir.
And did you see at this point Susan make any punching movements toward Linda?
No, sir, but Linda was attempting to stick up for herself.
Your Honor, I am going to ask the latter part of that be stricken. The answer is non-responsive.
Overruled. That answer remains.
So my question is just a yes or no at this point. I am asking if you saw Susan do any type of physical movements toward Linda when she was in the kitchen.
No,
And did you see any type of bottle in Susan's hands at this point as if she is going toward the kitchen where Linda is?
no,
Did you see Susan put the bottle down that you said she had in her hand earlier?
no, I didn't.
Do you know where the bottle went?
No,
You told detectives you were actually sitting on the couch during the entire time. Do you remember that?
yes,
And how? Now, your testimony is a little different here in court.
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled. You can answer that.
I told you I was sitting on the couch, but I got up when I was getting interviewed by the detectives. I didn't give any specific answers because they weren't asking good questions. I had been awake all night. I already told you everything. I did not want to be interviewed.
Okay, so when you were speaking with officers, did you still feel a little high from the methamphetamine you had smoked earlier?
Yeah, I was probably not in the right state of mind.
And do you remember telling officers that Linda and her friend actually cleaned up the mess and put the towels away that they had used to clean up the mess?
No.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at testimony or a transcript on that?
Sure.
Counsel, is it testimony or just a prior statement?
Just a statement, a transcript, I apologize.
All right.
This is a prior statement.
This lawyer is going to ask you to read something. Please read it to yourself. When you are done, let us know, and perhaps he will ask you another question. Do you understand?
Okay.
Just take your time to read it through. You can just look up so we would know you are finished reading. Okay?
I am finished now.
Okay. This is now it's week 9, Wednesday, and this is a former CSR exam from July of 2016. The preview words are Karen, Susan, and Linda, sorry. And it is a 12-minute test. I am Mr. Penn for the plaintiff.
I'm the witness.
I am the court.
I am the attorney for defense, Mr. Swan.
Just a minute. Oh, I got a two-sided copy here. Okay, here we go on the record. Starting with Mr. Penn in colloquy. Should I mark this as an exhibit?
I would object to its admission.
You're only trying to refresh the witness's recollection. No need to mark it.
I would like you to review number 14 all the way down into the next page. Just take a moment to review that and let me know when you are done.
Okay, I didn't actually say those exact words. They asked me and I said it was probably in the dumpster. That's not really saying that I witnessed them clean up or put the towels in the dumpster. That's just assuming.
Okay, so when they asked you about cleaning up the mess, you do remember telling the officers you believed it was Linda and her friend?
No, I don't. I didn't explain that to them.
Do you remember stating that the people put everything in the trash?
No,
So you don't recall saying something like that to the police officer?
I don't recall it because it didn't happen.
When you were talking to Linda after you got back from the gas station, do you remember talking to her about who was cleaning up?
No,
Did you ask her in particular about who washed the knife?
no,
Do you remember notifying the officers you believed the knife was washed?
no. Can I see where I said that?
Absolutely.
I object as to lack of foundation, Your Honor.
At this point, there is no failure of recollection. We will move forward and see where we go.
I can ask a question.
Next question, please.
Do you remember anything regarding who washed the knife off?
No.
And I am just trying to find that exact portion in the transcript that you asked me about.
Okay.
Once again, this lawyer is going to ask you to read something. Read it to yourself and tell us when you are done.
Okay.
If you can look at this particular portion all the way to there, please. Just let me know when you are finished.
Yeah, but I said in the beginning I didn't know what happened to the knife.
And I am asking you in particular,
I am assuming they cleaned it up. That's probably what I meant.
well, do you remember the detectives asking if you observed Linda pick up the knife?
I didn't tell them anything about Linda. I wasn't going to really tell the police anything.
Do you remember being asked about cleaning the knife?
That didn't happen.
Do you recall that statement to the
No.
police?
No,
Does reading this refresh your recollection as to that?
no, sir.
You said on cross that Linda told you not to talk to anyone about the stabbing.
Yes, sir.
And what were her words?
We weren't going to tell them about it. We weren't going to say anything.
You discussed that together?
We were talking about it. I wasn't going to say anything to the cops. It just wasn't my place to even do that. Nobody else is saying anything. Why then should I have to?
Again, you felt like you didn't want to rat her out.
That's right.
That's what you actually told police, is that right?
No.
Objection, never mind, that's fine.
Okay, the objection is withdrawn. The answer remains.
And when you told officers that you think Linda purchased or punched Susan, what were you meaning by that?
Objection, assumes facts not in evidence.
As phrased, it does. Sustain. Try again.
do you recall telling officers that you think Linda punched Susan and that caused the bloody nose?
No,
Do you have any recollection that Linda punched Susan at any time that night?
no, sir.
Would it assist you to review an earlier transcript? Do you just not remember it?
No, I do not remember.
And when you were speaking to police officers, although you said you felt like you were still a little under the influence of meth, you believed you were being truthful to them. Is that correct?
Definitely.
Your statement to police officers back then, is it fair to say that things were fresher in your mind?
Yeah,
And when you saw Linda stab Susan in the face, well, do you remember testifying to that yesterday?
yes.
What was Susan doing as that's happening?
Laying on the ground,
Was she doing anything with her body?
trying to get Linda away.
Can you describe what Susan was doing to try to get her away?
Just pushing her away.
Was she using her hands?
Yes, sir.
Both hands?
Yes, sir.
You didn't see any weapon in either of her hands?
No.
And did you see Linda place her hands on any particular part of Susan's body?
What do you mean?
Perhaps the shoulders or the arms?
Whose hands are you asking me about?
Susan placing her hands on Linda when she is being stabbed and Linda is on top of her.
No.
You said she was pushing her off though,
After she had gotten stabbed, yeah.
and that happens after the first stab?
I don't remember.
To be clear, what you remember is Linda stabbing multiple times and Susan using both hands to try to push Linda away.
Absolutely.
And then Karen entering the altercation and trying to pull or push Linda away.
Yes.
And that's when Karen got hit in the head with a bottle by the other woman at the party.
You mean in the kitchen?
Yes.
No.
Where did that happen?
I don't remember. That was way before the knife came out. That was before anything happened in the kitchen.
Okay, you reviewed the transcript yesterday. We went through it and you reviewed the statement and testified that Karen got hit with the bottle, correct?
I didn't say in the kitchen, though.
Well, would it help you to refresh your recollection because you don't remember anymore?
The bottles were in the living room, not in the kitchen.
In your mind, when did Karen get hit in her head by the bottle?
Probably in the living room.
Are you just guessing when you answer that way?
No, sir. I already testified that the bottles all happened in the living room. There are no bottles being swung in the kitchen.
I'm just trying to clarify. You don't need to get upset, okay?
I am not upset.
Objection.
Folks, don't instruct the witnesses. Just ask questions. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Next question.
When did Karen get hit in the head with a bottle?
That's in the living room.
I understand that. When was that actually happening?
When they are all fighting, I can't really speculate on the exact time. It all happened so quickly.
You previously testified there are 4 people with the bottles. There is the blonde woman. You don't know Karen, Susan, and the defendant, right?
It was just Linda, Karen, and Susan, and then the other woman came in and started fighting, but that was just for 1 second.
Did it eventually become an altercation that was 2 against 2?
No, it was 2 against 1.
So then the blonde woman enters, and in that 1 second, she hit Karen in the head with a bottle.
Yes.
At this point, is it just Linda and Susan fighting until Karen comes in, attempting to pull Linda away from her?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the blonde woman, do you know where she went during this time period?
No, sir.
So she could have been anywhere in the kitchen?
Objection calls for speculation.
As phrased, it does. Sustained.
Is it that you don't remember where this woman went?
It was all happening so quickly. I can't keep track of everybody. I don't remember where she went.
Okay,
How can I keep track of 15 people that were there out of the whole party? I can't keep track of where each person was during each event.
I understand that. I am trying to figure out what you actually remember seeing. Do you remember ever seeing the blonde woman after the stabbing?
No, because we all got up and tried to stop the fight.
Were you and Mike's brother trying to stop the fight?
Yes, we all were helping,
How many other people?
like 4 other people.
And to be clear, you said you don't remember any of their names, correct?
No,
Because you didn't know very many people there?
correct.
Did it appear that Linda had lost control during the time she was just stabbing over and over?
No,
Did she seem to know exactly what she was doing?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Did she appear to be very intoxicated at the point she is stabbing Susan on the ground?
yes,
And did she seem angry?
yes,
And was the defendant yelling just prior to the stabbing?
yes, sir.
Did you see her try to scratch Linda with some type of weapon or a bottle? Did you see anything like that?
No,
Now, did you see any injuries on Linda after the stabbing happened?
yes.
And what did you observe?
She had a couple scratches.
Did she show you those injuries?
Yes,
Is this before the police were dispatched?
correct.
Did she explain how she ultimately received those scratches?
No,
Do you know whether she had the scratches prior to this altercation? You hadn't really seen her, correct?
I could tell they were fresh.
How could you tell?
You get several scratches and that's fresh.
If it will assist you, I would like to show you a couple other photos and then you can explain what you are referring to.
Okay.
All right, and looking at these and referring to scratches, what are you referring to that you said appeared fresh?
You may want to get closer to the diagram and take a look at those photographs.
These around her neck.
Are you referring to this top photograph here?
Her feet were injured also.
She didn't tell you she had just gotten those injuries. Were you just looking at them and assuming they were fresh?
Yeah, I saw them.
Okay, you don't have any training in determining how fresh an injury is that correct?
No,
And you had not examined her neck prior to the altercation happening, correct?
no.
Or her feet, for that matter?
I know she didn't have those injuries before.
Well, you didn't look at her neck very closely, right?
Objection, leading, argumentative.
Overruled. You can answer that if you have an answer.
Would you repeat that question?
Did you look at her neck closely before this altercation happened?
No.
At some point, you noticed there was broken glass on the floor of the kitchen?
Yes, sir.
When did you first notice that?
After the fight.
Thank you, I appreciate your time.
No problem.
All right. Do you have recross?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to show you a couple photographs, okay?
All right.
And they are marked as 13 and 14 for identification, okay?
All right.
The first one you see is labeled at the bottom. Do you see the woman in the photograph?
Yes.
Do you recognize her?
Yes.
Is that Karen?
Yes.
Does it appear to fairly represent her size and how big she was on that evening in 2012?
Yes.
And looking at the second photograph, do you also recognize the woman in that photograph?
Absolutely.
Does it appear to be someone that you know or that you knew in the past?
It does.
Who is that?
Susan.
Even though this is only a photograph of her arm and upper torso, does this appear to be what she looked like that evening?
Correct.
Now, earlier you were shown many documents to try to help refresh your recollection. Have you reviewed those documents prior to today?
Yes.
When you read through them, were you doing that at the same time that you listened to the audio?
Correct.
Were you looking to see whether that transcript was accurate or not?
I don't understand that.
Did you go through and match up those words with the audio recording?
I don't recall.
Did you ever make any marks or any corrections that needed to be made on that transcript?
I did not.
Can you tell us whether the transcript pages you reviewed earlier this morning are accurate or not?
No, I don't know if they are accurate.
Now, a couple times this morning, I have heard you testify that things happen really fast. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
We are generally talking about a time period between 1 a.m. and about 2:30 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But the time period of the assault between three people or a fight between three people in the living room that moved into the kitchen, that results in a knife being used, that happened very quickly,
Yes.
in a matter of seconds.
Yes.
You are trying to get off the couch and get to see what's happening during that time, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us how Susan Ashley got into the kitchen?
Not really. I don't remember how exactly, but they were both in the kitchen.
Okay. So do you remember who went into the kitchen first and who followed?
No, I don't know if somebody followed somebody else.
And is that because you didn't get a good view or because of the time that passed and that you don't have a good recollection?
Because of time passing.
I don't have anything else, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any final redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, just one question.
Okay.
All right, Susan and Linda were in the kitchen together. Did you see whether Susan was closer to the wall or maybe the island?
I don't know.
I can show you a picture if it is easier.
Closer to the wall.
Before you saw them on the ground, did you see Linda standing and blocking Susan in the kitchen?
I can't recall.
Do you recall reporting that to police officers?
I don't believe I said that.
You don't recall saying that one way or the other?
No.
No further questions.
Mr. Swan, anything?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Okay. We have previously heard this witness come from out of state.
That's correct.
I suspect the witness would like to return home after we finish.
I believe so.
I have a flight tonight.
Okay. Thank you for being here with us today. Travel safely.
Okay, that's that. And I'm going to end this recording, but stay tuned. I'm going to be right back. No, wait, actually, I can add the warm up for the next one on here also. So. And just to give, because I have several people online, I want to let you people know that Friday we have normal classes. Monday we won't be having a second period because we're having a party for our CSR candidate. And so it's just, I'm sorry, it's not second period. It's at noon. So we will have normal classes next Monday up until noon. Okay. And then actually next week is our final day, our final week of classes. The week after that is finals week, and there are no dictation classes during that week. And that's it until July 3. So you're welcome to join us. We are having classes on July 3. We're having classes on July 5. And then some of us are going to the CSR for July 7.
You can invite him to the reception.
Yeah, you're welcome to come next Monday. I don't know where you guys live. If you're anywhere near Stockton and you want to come and have some motivating, whatever. Veronica Guerra is going to be our guest speaker. She, I think, well, I don't know. I think she's very inspiring and motivating. And she's someone who, like most people, really battled to accomplish this. She had to work hard for it. So, and I think she probably passed, I don't know, 2 years ago at the most, maybe. I'd say she's still pretty new. I'm a bad judge of time. It just all flies by. But yeah, it took her numerous times. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, and she will definitely address that, I'm sure. So anyway, you're welcome to join us. We do a potluck luncheon. So contact me if you want to entertain that notion. This is going to be some warm up, and this is from, let's see, we can start and go until page 6, line 16. Now remember, we just read a copy where the speakers were highlighted, and it's always difficult to go back and read one that isn't that way. So I am Ms. Johnson Jacobs for the plaintiff.
I am the witness.
I am the court.
I am attorney for defense, Mr. Peterson.
And this is, we're reading in 15s. We're going to do the warm up in 15s. We'll stay at 200 the rest of the time. And I forget what else I was going to say. I guess we're going to start. This is warm up.
It's the court for the record.
How would you pronounce this name? I think it's Juicy.
Juicy?
Yeah.
Okay. The court for the record. Ready on the Juicy matter?
Jericho Peterson appearing for Mr. Juicy. He is present in court.
Calling the matter of Michael Lawrence Juicy, 745927. The record will reflect this is the date and time set for the preliminary examination. Defendant is present personally with his counsel. People are represented. Both sides are ready to proceed.
We are ready to proceed, Your Honor.
People are also ready for the record. Mimi Johnson Jacobs.
Is there going to be a motion excluding witnesses?
I'm not going to make one.
All right, very good. You may call your first witness.
I would move to exclude any witnesses, absolutely, if there are witnesses in the courtroom.
Is there anyone
There is, Your Honor.
who is going to be testifying on this matter? Ma'am, before you leave, but I'm going to order that you wait outside until you're called. But I'm also going to order that you not discuss your testimony with anyone else who may have testified before you, all right?
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may call your first witness.
All right, people call Kathleen Marsden.
Could you come forward and just stand there for a minute? Please be seated. Please state your name for the record.
I didn't hear that.
Please state your name for the record.
Kathleen Marsden,
Spell your last name, please.
Marsden.
Thank you.
Your Honor, excuse me. I need to find out who this young lady is over in the jury box.
Yes. For the record, have her state her name and what the purpose of her sitting here is.
I was going to do that, Your Honor. Seated to the witness's left is Karen Lenz from Rape Crisis. The witness has requested that she sit in close proximity. The witness is very, very nervous.
That's acceptable.
I am sorry, Your Honor. I am going to have to voir dire her as to the possibility she may be a witness in this case before I set up the fact that she stays here.
That's acceptable.
Well, Your Honor, I did move to exclude witnesses.
I don't believe there are any witnesses here for the people, but I think he's entitled to make sure to protect his client's rights. You may voir dire this lady. I would like to be her sworn in.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Please state your name.
Karen, Karen, Lenz, Lenz.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Peterson,
Your Honor, I would like
you may proceed.
to clear up the record in that the motion by the district attorney also covers possible witnesses for the defense.
Motion to exclude witnesses?
It does.
I think it did.
Thank you, Your Honor.
As to all witnesses?
That's what this voir dire is for, so the court understands that.
Yes.
Ms. Lentz, my name is Jericho Peterson, and I represent Mr. Giusti in this matter. Where are you employed?
The Rape Crisis Center, Contra Costa County.
The address, please.
It's in Concord.
Does it have an address?
It does.
Would you state it for the record?
I will not.
Well, Your Honor, I think we have to have the address because I may want to subpoena her after I voir dire her.
I don't think she has to give the address here in open court. What is the reason for refusing to give the address?
It's a confidential office, Your Honor, and we really try to keep it confidential.
It's not given to the public at large. Is it in the phone book, for instance?
Yes.
If it's in the phone book, that's fine. I don't care whether she gives it or not.
It's listed in the phone book?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. How long have you known Ms. Marsden?
I just met her this afternoon.
Have you discussed this case with her at all?
I have discussed her feelings about this case.
Have you discussed any of the details of the case?
I have discussed her feelings and details about this assault.
I am sorry, I didn't hear your last statement.
I have discussed her feelings about an alleged assault.
Have you discussed any statements?
I object to this, Your Honor.
Yes, I think there is a privilege for a sexual assault victim counselor.
With whom?
And I am not sure you would be entitled to subpoena her if you wanted.
Furthermore, the voir dire is directed toward identifying whether Ms. Lentz is a witness or not. Clearly, she is not. She met Ms. Marsden this afternoon. What more can be said? I didn't hear the last part of your statement. What was the last part?
Would you repeat the last part of the statement?
Your voir dire was to go to whether or not Ms. Lenz was a witness in this case. Ms. Lenz has testified she met Ms. Marsden just this afternoon.
Well, I'm going to narrow it more than that. I think the voir dire goes to whether or not she is, in fact, with the Rape Crisis Center, and if, in fact, she would qualify as a sexual assault victim counselor and whether the privilege would apply to her.
That's also true.
I think I would allow you to establish that, but I don't think I will allow you to go much further whether or not there has been an extensive conversation or the nature of the comments or conversation.
I don't care about the nature of the comments, but if the victim has spoken about what occurred, and if this person could be called to testify to corroborate those statements made by the victim, then I would have a right to have her excluded.
Stop. Okay, I'm now going to stop this recording and start a new one because we're going to start the tape.